So we're just putting the last finishing touches onto the model tab. The model's looking great, but what we want to do is we want to step up the footnotes a little bit. We have the footnote toggle and the footnote cycle in Macabacus, which are really going to help us out here. So let's take a look at the footnote here. You can see net interest expense, and we're using an asterisk, and then down at the bottom, we have an explanation, calculated as interest expense net of interest income. And it's pretty common to use an asterisk for a footnote, but it can get a little clunky if there's 2, 3, or even 4 footnotes on a schedule. So Macabacus has a really slick tool for this. Let's go up to the Macabacus section of the ribbon. Right here under Format, we want to go down to Footnotes, and first of all, the footnote toggle, which is Control-Shift-6, is the first one we're going to look at, and then the footnote cycle here, which is Control-Alt-Shift-6. These two tools together are going to enable us to put really nice footnotes into this model. So the first thing that we can do is pop up here to net interest expense. We're going to tap F2. We're going to delete the asterisk and just put a 1 in that cell and hit enter. Next, we're going to head down to the footnote itself, also hit F2 and go to the beginning, and we're going to remove the asterisk from here and hit enter there. So we're all set and ready. Let's go up here to net interest expense, pop into that cell, and we're going to hit the footnote toggle, which is Control-Shift-6. It puts the 1 into superscript format. Now we can quickly go down to the footnote itself and hit Control-Alt-Shift-6, which puts a 1 right after the footnote. So watch how easy it would be if we needed to add another footnote to the model, like maybe for deferred tax. We could pop up here to deferred tax, hit F2, and put a 2 in the cell, Control-Shift-6, and we've made it into a footnote. So now we would just pop down to the bottom of this statement here, type in our new footnote like this, and hit Control-Alt-Shift-6 twice to cycle to the number 2. As you can see, these footnotes look really professional with these little numbers after them for 1 and 2. Now we don't actually need the second footnote, so we can just pop over here and delete it. And in order to remove the footnote here from deferred tax, we just hit Control-Shift-6, F2, and then delete the 2 from the label. We've worked our way right down to the bottom of the model tab now. And the one thing that we're noticing is that the model builder has used some pretty standard borders across the bottom here. We'd prefer to replace them with some dotted borders, which we find a little bit more subtle. So we can just use Control-Alt-Shift down to do that replacement right across the bottom, just like that. So you may not have thought too much about footnotes before in financial models, but now you have access to the footnote toggle and the footnote cycle, which make it really, really easy to add them in. Great work on the model tab. It looks amazing. We're going to see you in the next video. Great work. The model tab looks absolutely amazing. You may have been checking along the way against the solution, but if we just tap the page down button now and then page up, you can see that they're matching perfectly. The one exception of the error that we left on the balance sheet, but we left it there on purpose because we want to do the model check over on the cover page in a moment. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is the financial modeling guidelines document, which we're bringing up on the screen here. Remember, there's tons more information about formatting in that document and many other aspects of financial modeling. It's over 90 pages of information. If you're thinking about setting up the financial modeling formatting standards for your corporation, the document could be really helpful. Definitely check it out. The other thing that we've prepared for you that's definitely worth checking out is the summary sheet for this course, Format a Financial Model with Macabacus. We've tried to include the pertinent keyboard shortcuts there, as well as some great tips to keep in mind when you're formatting a financial model. Now let's not forget that financial models are important decision-making tools. We need to utilize the formatting to instill confidence in those stakeholders so that they'll use our model to make an important financial decision. We also have to remember that first impressions are so important. One of the first things that everyone is going to see with our model is the formatting. In fact, the very first thing that they see will be the cover page. I hope you've had a nice rest and enjoyed this intermission, because we still have some important work to do over on the cover page. We'll see you there. So I hope you appreciate from that last video that a cover page is really important. You'd never see a presentation that didn't have a cover page. You should think about financial models in the same way. And also remember, the cover page is the first thing that our audience will see. We're trying to instill confidence in them, so we really want them to be blown away by the cover page. Now, there's definitely some key features that you'll want to consider including on your cover page. Just looking below that we can see a nice logo. We can see the project or company name pretty clearly. We have a confidentiality message, table of contents. The model checks are very prominent, so they jump out at us. We also have a legal disclaimer, and we have a URL or a link to our website right at the bottom. While this is not an exhaustive list, these are definitely some of the common features that should be included on a cover page. Now, just a quick reminder here, remember that the solution to this particular cover page is off to the right-hand side. Remember how to get over there? Hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and tap Page Up and Page Down. That effectively turns those buttons into Page Left and Page Right. Now, the other thing that you'll notice as we toggle across to the solution are the bright colors. The cover page is a wonderful opportunity to show off your corporate branding. So we'll want to focus in to make sure that we get the colors just right to grab their attention. Let's hop into the next video and get started. So great job on the model so far. Remember, the cover page is obviously critically important. So we want to make sure that it looks fantastic with a nice splash of color showing our corporate branding. So let's roll up our sleeves, get our hands on the keyboard, and change some formatting really quickly using Macabacus. So one of the first things that we want to change here is the font. And remember, whenever we're making changes to the font, we want to be able to see the Home tab on the ribbon. So we're going to tap Alt-H so we can see the Home tab and escape out a couple of times. So already up here in the Home tab, we can see Times New Roman. And if we start moving around a little bit on the model, we're seeing Times New Roman, in fact, everywhere, just like on the Model tab. So we're going to need to make that change. So this should be really fast. We just hit Control-A to select all, and then Control-Alt-O, like that, for the font style cycle. So let's check our work really quickly. Let's just go to a couple of cells here, and we're seeing Open Sans right up here in the Home menu. So everything looks perfect. So let's make a quick change to the font size. We really want things to stand out on the cover page, so we're going to move up to the largest font size in our cycle. And remember to watch right up here as the font sizes change as we rotate through the font size cycle. So let's select all of these cells right across and down to the bottom and use Alt-Shift-G to rotate through the font size cycle until we get right up to a size 14. Now, the nice thing with Macabacus is that we're not constrained to the font sizes that are in the font size cycle. If we go up here to the Macabacus section of the ribbon under Format Font, we can see Increase Font, Control-Shift-F, Decrease Font, Control-Shift-G. So let's escape out and let's also click the Home menu so that we're going to be able to see these changes right up there. So let's use this to make the title right here a little bit more prominent. Control-Shift-F, and it's notching up all the way to a font size of 20. So let's move down to these cells here now. They look a little bit crowded, so let's use Control-Shift-G to move that down to 12-point font. Now let's move down here to the heading for the legal disclaimer. We also want to use Control-Shift-G to reduce that to a 12-point font. And then the text underneath, we're going to use Control-Shift-G a couple times to move it down to 11-point font. So things are looking great now in terms of sizing on this cover page. We can see that that model alert is popping out in that red color, which is not brand compliant. So let's pop into the next video and tackle that conditional formatting. We'll see you there. So as we mentioned, we're going to tackle that conditional formatting that's coming up in that red color, but we're also going to add in a splash of color for corporate branding. Let's jump in and get started with some of the fill colors that represent our corporate brand. The first area that we can tackle is right here at the top. we want to select this dark gray area and use the fill color cycle, Control-Shift-K, to start cycling through until we get to this nice dark blue color. Now let's pop over and take a look at the solution for 1 sec. Up to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, under Format and Color, we can see the fill color cycle right here. On this list, what we don't see at all is this bright blue color that we've used down at the bottom. So we're going to have to add it in manually. Let's check out how to do that. So the first step is we want to head back over to the area where we're working, and then we want to go down to this bottom section and select all of these light gray cells, just like that. So even though that bright blue color wasn't in our fill color cycle, Macabacus still makes it easy for us to access our brand compliant colors. With those cells highlighted, we just head up here to the Macabacus section of the ribbon and open this little drop down next to fill color and select this bright blue, and it's been changed. Now speaking of fill colors, we still have that bright true red coming through on the model alert. We know it's not brand compliant, but we may have forgotten the RGB code, which is really easy to check with Macabacus. Remember, all we need to do is head up here into Settings and click Configure, and we can see the CFI color palette come up. What we want to use again is this really bright orange color, and we can see here 250, 98, 28 is the RGB code that we're looking for. Let's escape out and make that change to conditional formatting. So what we want to do is head up right here and hit Alt-H-L to get into conditional formatting. Now we're going to use the mouse so you can see where we're going. Into Manage Rules. Here, Edit Rule. We want to go down to Format and over to Fill. Perfect. More colors, over to Custom, and this is where we're going to put in the RGB code. 250, tab down to 98, tab to 28, and we click OK, OK here, and finally OK here, and we're all done. So that's a setting in Excel, which is tricky to get into, but what we're thankful for is we were able to see that conditional format through the Explorer pane, which we wouldn't have seen if the alert wasn't tripped had it not been for Macabacus. Let's jump ahead now and tackle some quick font colors and border colors. We're almost done. See you there. So we're really thinking about how important branding is on this cover page. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to take all of the black font that's coming up on this page. We're going to switch it over to that dark blue, which is brand compliant. Let's get that done. So before we do that, we can definitely finish up with this model alert by removing that imbalance from the balance sheet. So let's pop over to the Model tab and scoot across here, right down to the balance sheet. We want to go all the way down into this cell, hit F2. We're going to remove this partial input and remove the equal sign. Hit Enter. So now what we want to do is remove that fill color in this cell. So Alt-HHN can get that done for us. So now that we've removed the error from the balance sheet, there's no model alert going off, but it might be nice as we look below here to just provide a little visual clue that there is a check in these cells. And what we'd like to do here is put a thin orange border just around these cells at the bottom. So now that we've already selected the cells, we can hit Control-Shift-7 twice and then move to the side, and we can see we've put a thin border in place. Now we can easily change the color of that border just by highlighting across it like this, and then Control-Alt-Shift single quote once for blue, second time for orange. Now that that's done, let's scoot back over to the cover tab and continue on. So let's first head down to the bottom of the cover page, right down here. We can see some black font, and we can use the font color cycle, which is Control single quote, to rotate through. The orange is a little hard on the eyes, but if we hit the shortcut once more, we get to a white, which looks really nice. So let's move right up here to the middle section of the cover page, and there's a lot of black font, and we'd like to convert that over to the dark blue color. So the first thing we can try is the blue-black toggle, which is Control semicolon. So if we try that, we can see it's not exactly the blue that we were looking for. And the next thing we could try is the font color cycle, which is Control single quote. And if we rotate through that cycle, we're also not seeing that navy blue color. So this is another situation where we don't have the color that we want built into any of the cycles, but we still want to make sure that we use a brand compliant color. So remember how easy that was before with the fill color. We go up to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, and this time we go in here to font colors, and we can click right there for navy blue, and it's made the change. The only other thing that we could do is make this title stand out a little bit more. Let's hit the blue-black toggle just to put that into a light blue. We can also remember earlier from the Explorer pane that we have in here a hyperlink. So let's also make that blue with the blue-black toggle and then hit Control U to make it an underline. So now it looks like a hyperlink. So this page is looking great now. You might think we're done, but we have one last little tweak to make to the borders here. Again, you might think all these changes are insignificant, but they really make a big difference when you take them all together. We'll see you in the next video. Now this cover page already looks amazing. We're just going to make a couple of last tweaks here. We're going to make the outside border a little bit more prominent and make sure the border colors are brand compliant. Let's do it. So let's start off down in the middle of the cover page here. These border types actually look pretty nice, but what we want to work on is the outer borders that are around the perimeter of the cover page. So what we can do here is select all the way around this entire cover page like this, and we want to use Control-Shift-7 1, 2, 3 times to get a really prominent border around the outside, just like that. So we want to make a change now to the border colors. So let's select the entire cover page all the way down to the bottom, just like that. So we can start by checking what's in the border color cycle. Control-Alt-Shift single quote will start to rotate through. We can see an orange, and there's also a light blue, but we're not seeing that dark blue that we want. So this is another one of those situations where we don't have the color we want in the cycle, but we definitely want to be brand compliant. You probably know where we're headed with this. Up to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, right down in here, we can open up the border color palette and we can click here on navy blue, and that change has been made. So well done. This entire model looks perfect now. Let's hop over into the next video and talk about and summarize some of the key things that we've been able to learn from this course. We'll see you there. It is great that we've been able to spend a little bit of extra time on this cover page. Remember that first impressions are so important, and this is the first thing that everyone will see when they open up the financial model. Obviously, we want to instill confidence in them. We want them to be impressed. We really want to draw them into the model so that they end up using the model for their important financial decisions. Given the importance of this first page of the model, let's make sure that we're achieving the goals that we outlined for this cover page. The first thing that we can see is there's a large logo right at the top. So we're doing a good job with corporate branding right off the bat. Now, as we look down the cover page, we can clearly see the company or the model name right up top, as well as a confidential message right here. We've also included over here a table of contents with a nice clearly marked hyperlink. And then down below, we have the legal disclaimers that are clearly marked with this white font. Stands out really nicely against this bright blue. Finally, if we look up here at the model check, anyone looking at this page will see that we've included a model check and that the balance sheet is in fact balanced. This should really help to instill confidence in anyone looking at the model. Now let's head over to the Model tab and take a quick look over here. Now, as you probably remember, right at the top here for these headings, we built up custom style cycles together. In fact, as you can see, if we head up here under Format, we can see under Custom Styles, these 4 styles that we've already loaded into the software during this course. Now, if you didn't get a chance to load in those custom styles, we've provided an XML file for you at the end of this course with all of the current CFI settings, including those custom styles. Once you've downloaded and saved that XML file, you can easily import it into the software. Right up here to the Macabacus section of the ribbon, under Settings, click Import, and then you would click right here, Import Settings from an XML file. That will get all the current CFI settings into your copy of Macabacus. The other thing to mention quickly is the Financial Modeling Guidelines document that we're bringing up on the screen now. Remember that this document is not just about formatting. There are so many other topics that we discuss in there that'll help you take your financial modeling up to the next level. Please also feel free to download and save a copy of the summary document that we're bringing up on the screen now. We've tried to include all the keyboard shortcuts that we've used in this course, as well as some great formatting tips that can really help you in the future as you're formatting financial models. We really hope that through this course, you've been able to realize the importance of formatting in terms of financial models. Remember, if your audience is not seeing great formatting, they may never get to the numbers. It has been so much fun sharing this course material with you, and thank you so much for joining us in this course. We hope to see you soon in the next one.